This is a BAE Systems Australia podcast. Welcome to Beneath the Deck, a podcast series that tells the stories of the people behind some of Australia's largest shipbuilding and sustainment programs.
Sometimes you need to deviate away from your chosen career path to ultimately get to where you really want to be. G'day, I'm Drew Radford, and that perspective comes from someone who's had a remarkable career, largely because she did a lot of deviation along the way, and that ranged from engineering right through to commercial artistry. Wendy is now the Throughlife Support Director for the Hunter Class Frigate Program. It's a remarkably diverse role with significant responsibilities. To discuss those and how she ended up in this role, she joins me for this Beneath the Deck podcast. Thanks for your time, Wendy.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat.
Wendy, I read a really nice line about the business that you're in, and it says, engineering designs the ship, production builds the ship, and support systems bring the ship alive. Is that what you do as a Throughlife Support Director?
Yeah, look, I think the support system team, or ILS, Integrated Logistics Support, we bring everything together in regards to building, I guess, all the training program to train the crew up. We design and implement all the maintenance and operating procedures, do all the technical manuals, all the spares, even to the point where we populate putting all the mattresses on board the ship. So down to the minute things to enable the ship to really be operational in its use. So, yeah, we sort of do bring the ship to life.
It's a funny thing, Wendy. Me as a civilian looking at something like a warship, I just sort of would make the assumption that the Navy know how to operate the thing. But when you talk about it, I guess everything requires detailed manuals and documentation.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly the Navy know how to operate a ship, but it's like anything. When you're given a new car, it's like you give them a new platform, is we need to teach them the nuances of that particular platform. We certainly don't tell them how to operate it in theatre or when they're using it in daily use, but we certainly teach them how to use the new technology that we're providing to them.
And a lot of outfitting. I mean, you said down there even to the mattresses. I guess that's life jackets, bedding.
Yeah, everything, knives and forks, cutlery, everything that goes on the ship, one program. We had 1,301 mattresses to put on board. So my team actually installed all of those. Things that people don't think about, but are really the most important things to the crew.
They're obviously daily needs, but there's also, I guess, spares to carry. And you've got crews that have got to be able to repair things in potentially crucial situations.
That's, I think, really one of the interesting things about what I do now, or what I've been doing for probably 30 years in regards to support system engineering, is we problem solve. So it is about how do you maintain the ship, how do you maintain the ship when they're at sea. You have a limited amount of spares that we can hold on board, and also a limited amount of time for the crew to actually be able to do things. So identifying what needs to be held on board, where it's held on board is also another activity, but also the tools and all the equipment needed to do any of that maintenance as well. So what we do a lot of is problem solving of, can it be done on board? Can we do it on board with the spares that we've got? And also, what's the ramifications if we don't?
Well, yeah, significant ramifications, obviously, to say the least. But I imagine there's a lot of redundancy thinking in there.
There is, and that's where one of the things that we work with the engineers very closely, and this is where probably my engineering background is why I enjoy doing what I do, is because we work with the engineers to design for support. So engineers will design to meet an operational requirement, but they don't often think about how do I maintain that piece of kit. So, the ability to be able to get in behind something to do regular maintenance, replace items, or even pull it apart. So we do a lot of that with the engineering team at the moment to ensure that when we do get these things operational, is that you can also maintain them for longevity.
I imagine, though, that requires you to put yourself in place and when, let's say, an engine's fitted or a piece of equipment's fitted and visualise that. We hear a lot about digital twins these days. Is that really important in this process? I mean, what is the digital twin for this and how's it work?
Technology has evolved significantly. The ability we have 3D models now. So your ability to stand in a room and actually physically visualize what that compartment looks like rather than the 2D drawings that, 20 years ago we were using. So your ability to actually sit there and redesign inside that 3D spatial model is brilliant. And the importance of the digital twin is to fully understand is that when we're maintaining it through its operational life, is you can actually understand how it was built. Because even though it was designed one way, when you actually physically build it, you may have to modify things for, there's a variety of reasons. But also if parts change or there's obsolescence. So understanding what a digital twin, to understand whenever we change something, to really understand the design model is really what we're about now. So 3D modelling and the introduction of technology has just made this so much more incredibly easy to do. And I'll say the logistics engineer of today and the logistics engineer of tomorrow are going to be two different people because we are very much more in that digital space versus the traditional sort of doing it all on paper.
It's funny you say that because I was reading in your background that you're a gamer. You're into your electronic games. But I understand also that's more than just relaxation for you. That crosses over into this space somehow.
Yeah, look, one of the programs I worked on, we actually developed a ship's walkthrough model. So using one of the world's best gaming engines, we actually created an entire 3D version of the ship, which you could physically self-navigate around. So the ability to understand how you were able to then absorb that information, which is what you do when you play games. You learn from spatial awareness where you are. It was an interesting dynamic for me to go, this is how this generation learns. Past generations, we all learnt by, you sort of got books and then you actually did it by physically doing. This generation is more, if you immerse them in it, they will learn. So using that sort of technology, one, because it's safer and cheaper, being able to train people in a very safe environment enables mistakes to be made with very small consequences. If you were to train people on physical equipment, one, you've always got the problem of you can damage the equipment, but more importantly, the individual could be harmed. So it's a good crossover for me. Plus it enables me to have conversations with a lot of my team members and sort of breaks the ice a lot.
That's a fascinating insight. Do you think that means that they learn potentially faster using these digital environments because they're so hands-on and realistic?
Oh, look, I think so. Even down to the concept of writing technical manuals as an example. The technical manuals I used to write probably 20 odd years ago, very different to the technical manuals now where we're trying to use a lot more of video enhancements because that's the easier way for people to absorb information. And, that's, again, this generation, that's how they're seeing everything.
You hear bits and pieces about virtual headsets and potential application for them in the field. Let's say mining, you've got someone trying to fix a piece of equipment they don't know about, but if they put on the virtual headset and they've got a specialist 3,000 kilometres away tuning into that, is that in your space as well?
That's something we certainly have been looking at in my recent activities when I was working in the research and development area. It was that ability to maintain equipment and what we would refer to as phone a friend. So the ability, if somebody couldn't maintain a piece of kit using a goggle or just a singular ocular lens, could they connect to somebody thousands of miles away, a subject matter expert, to walk them through a problem space because they could see what they were seeing and you could connect up. Yes, it's in its infancy, but it is a space that we are looking at. And that's where I think for us, this sort of technology is where, it excites a lot of the team members that I've got because it is very cutting edge, it is very different. And as I said, the team of yesterday compared to the team of the future are very different people. It's
such a high-tech space. What do you wish others in the organisation knew about what you and your team do?
For me, the hardest thing is getting people in to actually understand. One of the reasons why I like to use the term support system engineering, One, it gives a little bit more of a realisation that what we do is very much a profession. It is a certified profession. Where if I say integrated logistics support, many people consider us to be box packers because they think of logistics, they think of transport, etc. Just trying to get people in to understand how we bring everything together. We are probably the one part of the program who communicate with every aspect of the business. So the engineering, the quality, the test and trials team, the supply chain, we need to interact with all of these guys and they need to interact with us because at the end of the day, we bring everything together to complete the ship.
It's funny there, that box packing description. Language is everything sometimes, isn't it, in terms of quickly putting a label on something?
Oh, absolutely. If I say, integrated logistics support, people automatically think warehousing. And, and interestingly enough, I do have warehousing because we obviously have to do spares and etc. Even to the point where we mock up the storerooms so that we can load them out to make sure that we have optimum fit. But you say that, and as I said, people think warehousing. So trying to get people to actually look at this as a profession because, as you would have seen with my sort of career, it was a very different turn to get into this. And most of the team that I've got, it's actually their second career. So a lot of personnel, when they left the military after 20, 25 years, it was a second career for them because it was an easy transition out of the military into logistics support. There's a lot of avenues to look at within support system engineering. So just trying to get people interested in wanting to have a look in that space. And for me, trying to build the next generation of personnel is one of my key goals, certainly in my current role.
Well, I have had a look at your CV and I bottom line guess at least this is your third career probably because you started out as a cadet, didn't you? A mechanical engineer cadet.
I was. I won't say it was easy as a female wanting to be an engineer in the mid-80s was not an easy activity. So I was fortunate. I was able to get a cadetship. So I didn't want to go straight to university. I preferred to learn and experience work at the same time. So I was fortunate to get an opportunity where I worked and went to school half a day and 2 nights a week to do my engineering. And then from there became a qualified engineer, did some more time there and then couldn't find anything that really was enthusiastic from a promotion sort of point of view. So got into defence and took some very different career choices there. But again, for me, I think if there was one thing I could sort of explain to people, which is when opportunities come, sometimes don't discount an opportunity because it's not what you plan to do, because it's amazing how you can actually end up being back on the same road you always wanted to be on.
Well, that sounds like a line spoken from someone who's certainly trod that path, for want of a better description, because you did a bit of a sidestep, though. You did a commercial art qualification in there.
I did. One thing, because, I'd always done art when I was younger, and I think it was just more of something to relax my brain. I still actually do it now. I do a lot of painting and whatnot because it just gives you that recourse to reset your brain and the ability for you just to think of things differently. And amazingly, I was doing that just to, again, give me just that sort of balance, right, left brain type concept. And it's probably the reason why I enjoy playing video games as well. So I did that, and then when I couldn't find a job that I enjoyed from an engineering perspective, I went into doing illustration work, which was not far disconnect because it was all very much associated with engineering. So my ability to understand engineering drawings, to turn them into illustrations, it was a very short leap, to be brutally honest. Some people probably think a huge one, but not too much of a leap.
And did that lead you to BAE?
Yes. So I was an illustrator within a company. I was actually only the illustrator for 6 months, and someone could see that I had a little bit more skill set than just doing illustration. So I became the technical publications manager. And then the company I was working for was actually bought out by what was British Aerospace at the time. And then British Aerospace and GEC merged, so we became BAE Systems. So yes, that's how it started. And then I was doing technical publications, was always sitting in on training, and then thought, I could do training as well. So I became the training manager. And then part of that was part of the integrated logistics support team, and just naturally grew from there.
Quite a bit of growth, I would say. So what do you reckon your biggest career highlight has been so far?
I'm extraordinarily lucky. I've had 2 opportunities in my career to build 2 programs, both vastly different, from tendering to delivering the complete program. One was in an Army radio system, but the LHD program, having seen that from negotiating the contract through to the first ship delivery, being able to be part of a team who built a state-of-the-art training facility as well, was one of my highlights. I can look out and I can see that ship existing, and for me that's a clear highlight.
Sounds like you had a few challenges along the way too. What do you reckon the biggest challenge has been?
Yeah, look, I think one could obviously say being a female, being in engineering, that was probably a hardship in itself. For me, probably quite the other spin to that, which was my career had always been very much male dominated. So working in a significantly male environment was very comforting. For me, the biggest challenge I've had probably the last 10 or so years has been the abundance of additional females into programs. I actually had to readjust how I interacted. Probably slightly different to what most people would consider, but very comfortable in a male-dominated environment. Now, having the different environment, it was something of a bit of a challenge for me.
Wendy, in recruiting the next generation of support systems engineers, are you looking for broader and more diverse skills? Because it sounds like a role that is much more technologically focused.
It is looking at, and I've actually had graduate engineers who have not thought that what we do is engineering. But again, it's not just engineering. You know, I am talking about computer graphic artists. Ones and zeros will become the future. One of the key things that I'm very driven at the moment is understanding that data will be the key driver of this program. There's a lot of information, but how do you get that information? How do you get that information transferred across multiple systems? So the types of people that I'm going to be looking for in the future are not your traditional engineers. Absolutely, I need those individuals in the team, but it's also more than that. It is the people that can do analytics, can write algorithms, those sort of things. So it is a very vast field, and I guess a very rich environment for people that want to learn and may have some, I guess, what we've referred to in the past as hobbies, which is then extended into being able to incorporate it into their daily work.
It's an interesting broad net you're casting then.
Very much so, and trying to find individuals that fit the mix. And then I guess the more challenging part is then building a team where all of those different types of individuals come together and can work. It's a challenge, but one I'm actually really looking forward to seeing an outcome in.
There's obviously a lot of opportunity in there for career progression, but also I'm guessing that career progression for you has worked out because you've been able to see the future, for want of a better description, and grasp it and apply it.
I think it's more people need to understand the opportunities that exist. For me, I think I've had the opportunities to work across multiple programs and across all three services as well. I think what people need to do is look at their careers and don't think I have to be this or I have to be here. It's about if you can take a job, and sometimes some of them don't make sense or they're not the best programs to work on, but they're the best experiences because you continue to build your arsenal of information and your ability to then, the next problem, how to solve that differently. So I think that's where people need to understand that an opportunity may not present itself black and white, but it's amazing how you can turn some opportunities into future opportunities, which happened for me in a lot of cases. For me, working on different programs allowed me to network significantly in the business and then met quite a few different people and got involved in different aspects. Sometimes you just need to maybe deviate away to actually, look for the future.
And is it that diversity of opportunity and the multiple challenges that brings central to what you like about working with Defence and BAE Systems Australia?
Certainly within BAE, the opportunities to be able to grow and to experience something different. You certainly have a lot of those opportunities, and I've worked in bids and I've worked in the research and development. Defence, I think with the technology, is probably what drives me. I've always been around defence. My family's been in defence. For me, I sort of look at what we do is if you can't physically serve, you can at least give the people that serve the best products and the best opportunities to operate safely and efficiently. So technology is probably what drives me a lot.
You've had quite a bit go on in your career. What do you reckon the best career advice is you've received?
So the best career advice I received actually was from a colonel who told me when I was looking to sort of start managing and getting into teams, he told me that the best way for me to look good was to have a great team working for me, because if they're working well, then I look good. And that's pretty much been the one thing I've really sort of stood behind my entire career, is that if I've got a high-performing group, they will make me look good every day. And if that's the case, then hopefully the rest will take care of itself.
Lastly, Wendy, what advice would you have for anyone considering a career in defence or with BAE Systems Australia?
Certainly working in defence, there's a lot of opportunities. As I said, I think people need to understand it is not a traditional engineer. You have to be this, you have to be that. It is the opportunities for everybody with different skill sets to be able to contribute. And I think that's the key thing. And from a BAE perspective, the business is always looking to develop people. If you can understand where you want to get to, the business is really, really keen to develop people for longer term. I think that's one of the advantages working certainly in defence, because you do have programs that can go for 20 years. I've worked with generations of people in the business because you have that opportunity to go forward. There are people still in primary school now who will work on this program long beyond when I'm not working for the business. And that's what I think defence gives you the opportunity.
Well, Wendy, it certainly does sound like you've had the opportunity for development and also have given that to many others in the process. For now, though, Wendy, Throughlife Support Director for the Hunter Class Frigate Program, thanks for joining us for this Beneath the Deck podcast.
Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you for listening. For more episodes, find us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or visit the BAE Systems Australia website. All information is accurate at the time of release.